I was going to tell you some things about there on the farm too that seem sort of unbelievable now. Is when I built my pig parlors. Well, the concrete slabs that I built, one of them was 164 feet long and 36 feet wide and 4 to 6 inches deep, depending on where it was. I poured that with a half mix concrete mixer. And we had a little concrete mixer, and you use a half a sack of cement, and you mix your gravel and your sand and everything with it. And Gordon Hughes and I, that's how we poured a 164 foot by 36 foot long slab of concrete. If you can imagine how long that took. One day I had to go to Carthage and pick up some more cement, and I came back and Gordon was fixing the timbers that we laid off each section by, And I looked at it and I could tell it wasn't tipped, It had to be sloped so that the water would run off, and it was almost level. And I said, Gordon, that doesn't look right. And he said, well, it's right. And I said, well, show me how you do it. So we had a little level that hooked onto the string that we stretched to get it straight. And what he'd been doing is when the level had fallen off, and he had taken the end of the level and twisted it around instead of keeping it like it was. So now it was just straight instead of having the pitch to it. So then we had to go back and rebuild all the stuff that he had done. So anyway, we did that, and then we built another barn that was 85 feet long and 30 feet wide, and poured the concrete for it. Built all the barns above it. I built the wooden fences around it, and then I built what I call the pig loos. They were on an 8 by 8 foot platform, and then the old sow would come in and she'd lay around inside, and then I had a heat lamp hanging down, and she'd have her pigs. And I never forget one night, I had 20 sows in there having pigs, and I said, I'm going to walk down to the fairing barn and see how the sows are doing. And it was 12 degrees that night, and I walked down there. And that night I had 242 pigs born. And I stayed there all night. Well, Patty was there at the house with the babies, and no telephone and no way to come and check on me. And I didn't get home till daylight the next morning. She just figured a sow had got me down and killed me, because sows were pretty mean. And that was really a night of being what do you call it? A delivery. I delivered a lot of pigs, let me put it that way. I'll never forget, one time I had this guy come down from Washington. He wanted to talk to me about my hog operation. They were much larger hog operations around the country, but they were mostly like Albert Gore's feed mill operation. But just for a farm operation, I had one of the largest in the state. So he came there, and he was all nattily dressed and everything, and Patty put him on some rubber boots so he could get around the barn. He asked me, about how many sows and how many boars and how many pigs, and what protein did I feed them, and how I grew up, and how big I got them when I sold them, and all that kind of stuff, and what kind of profit margin and all I was doing, which was none practically. But he spent about a half a day with me, and we went back over to the house. We were standing there in the living room, and old man Russell knocked on the door, and old man Russell was a preacher up there in the Bend, self-ordained preacher. And I said, well, come in, brother. And he came in, and the guy from Washington still standing there. And he said, Brother Jellicoe, said, I'd like to invite you and your wife to come up to my revival this week I'm having. And I said, well, brother, there's people up there at the church. I know everybody, know how everybody feels. Most of your people wouldn't want my wife in your church. And he said, why is that? And I said, well, because she's Catholic. And I said, I know how they feel about Catholics here in this neighborhood. And he said, son, let me tell you. He said, one time I was up there preaching on the street, up there on the corner up there in Crossville, Tennessee. Said I was preaching the gospel, and I was telling the people all about and everything, and said this car pulled up, and said this here priest got out, had that collar around his neck, and he sat there and he listened to me preach a few minutes, and he pulled that collar off, and he got there and said, hallelujah, brother, hallelujah. That actually happened. This guy from Washington was just, he was bleary-eyed. He couldn't believe what was going on. So he said, well, before I leave, said, let's have a word of the Lord. And so he dropped down on his knees, and he started, oh, Lord, praise this family, Lord bless them, and all that. And this guy from Washington, he didn't know what to do. So finally, Brother Russell left, and this guy from Washington ended up, he was Catholic himself, and I don't know if this happened, but can you imagine this guy going back to Washington, and he's at a cocktail party or something, and he's sitting there and he said, let me tell you what happened down in Tennessee last week when I was down there. And he can tell this tale that happened there with Brother Russell.